All right, my friends, let's take a look at conditional selection. This is actually going to be lesson number 6. Now, when we think about conditional selection, we've been looking at different types of loops, conditional loops, infinite loops, and now we're looking at conditional selection. This is also in Boolean expression, this is considered branching is another way that you may come across this. The idea that we can use Boolean expressions to determine like which route a program should follow. So we don't have to have programs that follow like a very linear approach. We can have it start to follow different pathways or branches, whether answers are true or false, or thinking binary, a 1 or a 0. And so this is actually known as branching or conditional selection. You're going to hear both of these. And so the things that we want to think about when we look at this, in terms of Scratch, Scratch has two blocks that we can use. They have the first block, which you see here, the if something happens, then whatever we put underneath is going to occur. Or we have this option here that if this happens, then we want this to happen. Otherwise, else, we're going to have another pathway. So if a number is greater than 10, we want the cat to jump. Else, we want the cat to spin in a circle, whatever it might be. Right? So as we start to think through these things here, in Scratch, as we start to create more complicated things, Scratch can be sometimes a little cumbersome because if we wanted to have several things happen, we have to nest these blocks within one another. And that's when sometimes it can get a little sloppy. So just, be aware of those types of things. When we think about Python, Python actually has three options. Colons for this are needed just like we were doing the loops, and so we're going to write these commands. We needed to make sure we have the colon. Indentation is also going to be needed, and so the if commands mean that if like a condition is going to be true, then the program is going to run the block of commands under that. And if it isn't true, that block is skipped and it's going to move on to the next thing. So what we're going to do in this video, we are going to look at a very simple example, but I want you to realize I'm going to have another video of another example a little more complicated. Not super hard, but this one here is going to be taking a look at if it's your birthday or not. This additional example is going to be taking a look at doing some mathematic, addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division, just so you can kind of see how this plays out in both Scratch and in Python. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to jump into our Scratch. Okay, and so I'm going to just go ahead and label this here because I haven't actually done this yet. And we're going to just keep this simple. Scratch versus Python. Branching. Example 1. Okay, so here we go. We are going to just look at these here. I'll put these in here just for the sake of making life a little easier for you to remember. But we're going to take a look here. We're not actually going to run these, but when clicked, like we've had, okay, we are now going to go to our control, and we talked about how we have two different ways of branching. The first can be this, right? The if statement here, which is going to be very similar to Python, which you're going to see a lot of connections here. So if, let's go ahead and get an operator in here. Let's just keep it simple, kind of some of the examples we've been doing. All right, and I think I should still, oh, no, because it's a new program, so let's just make a variable. I'm just going to call it branch. I know, real clever here, right? So if branch is greater than 10, we're going to say your number is greater than 10. All right, and so this variable, we're actually going to, well, you know what? Let's do this. We're gonna write some code here. We're going to we're gonna say ask, pick a number. There we go. So we'll get into what this block is later within Python. This is an input block basically. So we're going to ask the user of this program to pick a number. All right. If, and actually we're not going to make this branch then. Actually, we're going to change this. So if answer. So this is good. This is why we work through it real time. You can realize that I'm thinking through this myself, and this is what you're going to be doing, and it's okay to make changes and mistakes and move and groove. So this is what it's all about. If answer is greater than 10, we're going to say your number is greater than 10. So let's run this here. Okay, let's pick a number. If I hit 4, nothing happens. Okay, if I run this again, and let's say I hit 11, your number is greater than 10. That's exactly what it does when we go to run this. Okay, now let's move this over into what this looks like in Python. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here is a similar code to what we just did in Scratch, but now in Python. And so a couple things here that we have. I'm just going to leave some comments as we go and write on here. So we're creating a variable. Number is our variable. All right, that's what we're going to use for this particular thing, a number. And we're just asking the user to enter a number. Okay, now before we've just been using this input. We'll come back to this. We haven't actually explored this yet, but this is how we get people to input information that we can then use in our program. The key here though is with the input, okay, input by itself, okay, creates what's called a string. All right, and so think about it like words and letters. But if we need it to be in a numeric number, we need it to be in an integer. So eventually, especially in these future programs, we want to do some mathematical calculations. We have to have it as an integer. So so that is why we are using the int to convert from string to an integer. All right, so that's what this int here is. So enter a number. It's usually as a string. We're converting it into an integer. All right, now here's our statement. If number, whatever the person enters, is greater than 10, it's going to print your number is greater than 10. If it's any other number less than 10, nothing should happen. So if I go to run this module, run this program, let's enter a number. All right, say I hit 7, nothing should happen. Nope, nothing happened, right? So I'm actually going to leave a space here, just give some space. Let's run it again, and this time let's pick 15, and we should have your number is greater than 10. Boom, there it is. So that is the first step, comparing our Python with our Scratch. So if we look at our Scratch here, okay, and actually just to make this a little bit easier for you, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to call this answer, just so we have similar comparisons to this. Okay, so we asked the person here in Scratch to pick a number. That became an answer variable, right? So if our answer is greater than 10, it's going to say your number is greater than 10. And then we saw before that if it didn't work, it didn't work. Same thing here, answer. This is this ask command basically. We're inputting a number, okay? So let's do this. Let's make it even the same terminology. Pick a number. That's exactly what we've got going on there. Okay, if answer is greater than 10, just like we see there, we're going to print your number is greater than 10. So it's almost identical. It actually pretty much is, minus the green click, but the green click for us is right when we just hit the run to run the module. That's our green click. So they are darn near exactly the same. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the next command here. I'm just going to pull this apart so this doesn't actually run. Okay, and I'm just going to add a comment here just so I know that this is if branch 1 example. All right, I'm just going to add that over here just so we have it. Okay, so now let's look at our next one of the if-else statement. So if we go back here to control, we have this one, right? So this just gave us one branch. It's either if it does this, boom, this happens. Otherwise, it moves on, whatever is next in the code. But now we have this if-else. Okay, so if we go back and kind of use this, we're just going to use the same structure we just been using. All right, so we're going to go to the sensing. Let's just ask again to pick a number. All right, and then if the answer is greater than 10, just like we had before, okay, we're going to say, actually, I'm just going to duplicate this. There we go. We're going to say your number is greater than 10. Else, now we have another option. What happens if it's not greater than 10? All right, so we're going to say the next thing, that your number is less than or it's equal to 10, because we don't really know yet, right? We don't know if it's less than or if it's equal because we only have these two conditionals here. So now if we run this to pick a number, if I pick 2, it should give us your number is less than or equal to. Boom, there it is, right? And if we run it again, I pick 34, your number is greater than 10. So now we're starting to have some options here to our code. And so if we go back here, okay, and I'm just going to save this as a new one just so we have it. Okay, I'm going to call this branch 2 if else. Okay, now if we have the same code that we were just working on, right, and we start to tweak this, a lot of things don't have to change. Okay, we're picking a number, pick a number, we got our answer. We're going to print that it's greater than 10 if it's greater than 10. Okay, so we've got that. Okay, then I can come here and I can write else. All right, and I'm going to have a new indentation. We can print the same thing that we just wrote over here. And actually, I could probably just copy this. There we go. Print, just like so. And now if we go to run this, we should have the same thing happen. Let's see here. So I pick a number, I pick 23. Your number is greater than 10. That's good. Okay, let's run it again. And let's pick 3. Your number is less than or equal to 10. So we're getting the same exact results, right? In Python, it's just showing us here in this text, or over here we had it with the cat, and the same thing is happening right here. Can we see that here? We're picking a number, that's getting our integer. If answer is greater than 10, boom, that's there. We're going to print, and Scratch it says say, else, same words there. We're going to say the same thing. So once again, looking very, very similar to our structure here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring this down. I'm just going to make a comment like we did before. I'm going to call this the if-else branch example. I'm going to drag that over. Okay, I'm actually here just going to go just add a scratch tip. If whatever block you click the top of, so if I right click this ask and I duplicate, it's going to duplicate everything underneath, so I don't have to redo all these blocks again, which I think will be helpful. And so I'm just going to actually slide these over here a little bit. Now, we talked earlier in the beginning that Scratch only has 2 operations, the if and if else, and we talked about how Python has 3, if else, else if, right? So now we need to go through, and we talked about there are ways to do this, and you have to do some nesting of these blocks within blocks when it comes to Scratch. And this is where I said sometimes it can get a little messy if you're not careful. And so I'm just using the same thing we had before, right? Because now we want to make sure we have 3 options. We want to be able to program, be able to identify if we're greater than 10, less than 10, or equal to 10. And so right now, under this else, we just say it's either less than or it's equal. Okay, so how do we fix that? I'm actually going to drag this out because we don't need that right now. And we just need to run another if-else statement. Okay, and so we're just going to go back here. And I'm going to take this if-else statement and I'm going to link it underneath this. So this is what I talked about, this nesting, how we can go a nest within a nest within a nest, right? So now, if I go here, and I'm just going to make these just because I find it a little bit easier. Okay, now I have to actually, I don't want greater than, do I? Right? Because if answer is greater than 10, we're going to say that. We need to say if it's less than 10. Let's think through the logic here in just a minute. Let me get my answer block here. Okay, it's going to say, I'm going to copy this, I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, your number is going to be, oh, there we go. And then else, your number is, oh, darn it. Okay, so let's look at this. We pick a number. If it's greater than 10, we know it's going to say that. If it's not, say it's lower, say it is 7, then it's going to go down to this else, but now it has to make another decision. So if 7 is less than 10, which we know 7 is, it's going to say this. Okay, but let's say we pick 10. So if 10 is greater than 10, we know that's not, right? So it's not going to say this, so it's going to kick down here to else. If 10 is less than 10, we know it's not, so it's going to skip that. It's going to go to else. So by process of elimination, we know that means the number is going to be equal. So when we go to run this, if I type in 10, it's going down here, your number is equal to 10. And if I were to run this again and run 3, your number is less than 10. And if I pick 300, it's greater. So now we have it going through a process of branching, continuing to get down. So now we can choose whether it's greater than, less than, or equal to in Scratch. So not too bad. Now if we were to come over here to our Python and try to do the exact same thing, I'm going to go ahead and save this as a new one. Okay, I'm going to call this branch 3. And then there we go. All right, so now if we keep looking and just following the same kind of process that we have, we're getting our answer here. If it's greater than 10, we're going to print this. All right, but we're going to add in here a new block, or not a new block, a new line of code. Okay, and this is this command can be combined with an else. All right, or else if command as well. And this means that if something is true, to do one thing, otherwise check if something else is true and do something else if it is. Okay, so what it's going to be doing, it's going to be checking to see where this lands. And so if I go here and type else if the answer is less than 10, okay, we're going to print, and I'm just going to copy this for the sake of time here. We're going to print your number is less than 10. And now we have the same process. Can you see that here? So if I were to space this out, and it's not good coding etiquette, just ask is the same as answer. If our answer is greater than 10, it's going to print your number is greater than 10. Okay. Else, I'm going to drop this down here. Like I said, not a good coding protocol, but at least you can see it. If it's less than 10, print your number is less than 10. Or else, we know that it's going to be equal. So we have the same process here in our Python as we do with our Scratch. And so when I go to run this, all right, we should see. So let's go ahead and see if this works. If I hit 10, it should tell us that it's equal. Oh, because you know what? I didn't change this. Your number, this should say your number is equal to 10. Let's run this again here. Let's see here. If we run this, let's try this again. So I picked 23. That works. It's greater than 10. If I pick 4. Oh, if it's 4, there we go. We pick 4, your number is less than 10. And if we actually pick 10, it should tell us that we're equal. So there we have it. How it looks in Scratch, how it looks in Python. Everyone has a preference. One's not better than the other, but as you get working with Python coding and text coding, you can start to see that things can be pretty smooth, and it almost starts to be less work once you get rocking and rolling. All right, my friends, this is branching. Some examples here. If you want to look at another one, we're going to do one using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You can check that one out. Otherwise, try creating your own using these three statements, and please share. I would love to see your work. I would love to see your genius that you're working on. All right, my friends, stay awesome.